Today we're talking about our WooCommerce integration that came out a couple of weeks ago. So it's been out and in the software for a couple of weeks. It's open to anyone that has a WholeCell subscription, and it allows you to connect your WholeCell account with all of your inventory to your WooCommerce store, so that you can keep your products in WooCommerce synced with your inventory in WholeCell, and to import new WooCommerce orders that come through your store into WholeCell as well. So we'll jump right in to this. For anybody that's on the call that has never encountered WholeCell before and isn't really familiar with what it is, WholeCell is a serialized inventory management system that now has a lot of e-commerce integrations as well. So we originally started as an inventory platform for specifically for folks that are buying and selling used cell phones, so that they can track the IMEI, the repair history, all the unique things, the grade, the damage conditions, everything that kind of goes into a used cell phone that makes it unique from other types of products out in the world of inventory software. And so we started as this inventory platform specifically for used phones. And over time, we've grown a lot of our e-commerce integrations to become a multi-channel selling solution as well. So WholeCell kind of has these two capabilities that I think is what people join the software for today, is the ability to track IMEIs and the repair history of their devices, the unlocking history, the grade, the damage conditions, etc. And then to be able to connect the inventory to all of the sales channels that you're selling on, whether you're selling wholesale, eBay, Swappa, Back Market, and now WooCommerce. We have ways to connect. We don't have direct integrations, but we have ways to connect with Amazon and Shopify and stuff like that. So today I'm talking about WooCommerce, but there are plenty of those features as well. So you can kind of see, I talk about, we've got serialized inventory management, the ability to scan and audit your IMEIs, these e-commerce integrations that I'm talking about, and then we have some business integrations as well. So a lot of different features that help folks. But today I'm specifically talking about our WooCommerce integration. I'm going to lead with that, and then I can talk a little bit more about the other general things that WholeCell does. But if you've been a WholeCell customer for a while, or if you've seen some of our kind of, as we've grown and over time we've released more and more features, we send out emails about them. You've seen probably that we are continually releasing more and more e-commerce integrations with the channels that our customers are telling us that they're selling on. And so one of the things we hear very frequently from our customers is that they want to sell on their own store. They're selling on marketplaces, and they like marketplaces. That's where most sellers get their start, because you can really build a great volume business on these marketplaces. But then sellers also want to have their own store that they kind of set the rules for. And so there are kind of two platforms that we hear about the most for this. We hear about WooCommerce on WordPress websites, and we hear about Shopify. And so today we're talking about our WooCommerce integration that allows you, if you've built a WordPress site with a WooCommerce store, you can now connect that store to WholeCell. And so our integration has kind of three critical pieces, which is the ability to sync your listings with WooCommerce. In WooCommerce, they're called products. And so you sync those WooCommerce products into WholeCell, and they just kind of regularly update. If you add a new product on WooCommerce, it's going to map and immediately import into WholeCell. We run a job every 10-15 minutes that is importing those new products. So that syncs the kind of these listings basically from WooCommerce into WholeCell. So then WholeCell, if they're immediately recognized by SKU, WholeCell is just going to now start telling WooCommerce what the current quantity that you have for that SKU. And so that's going to keep you from overselling across your different channels. Say you've got stuff listed on eBay, on Swappa, on Back Market, and on your WooCommerce store. You don't really want to, maybe you sell 5 things on your WooCommerce store. You definitely don't want to have those 5 things still listed on eBay, Back Market, and Swappa, because all of those channels, they tend to penalize you, or at least hold you accountable to ship an order if you get an order. So you don't want to oversell. The penalty for overselling on most sales channels is pretty severe. It affects your seller performance. So you want the ability to have this multi-channel sync, and that's what our listing sync does. Is it brings all of your listings or products from WooCommerce into WholeCell and keeps the quantity sync up to date. And so it's doing that for you automatically, so you don't have to do it or have someone manually doing it yourself. The next piece of this is importing and fulfilling orders. So the coolest thing about WholeCell, I think, for someone that's doing a lot of volume and is trying to just keep track, it's really hard to do this on spreadsheets. You want to keep track of what IMEIs are going out on what sales orders. And so WholeCell is automatically importing your orders from WooCommerce. So if you sell something on your store on WooCommerce, it imports to WholeCell. In WholeCell, you can assign the IMEI or fulfill the IMEI that you will actually want to ship on that order, because the order is going to come in and it's just going to have the generic idea of a product. So maybe you sold, whatever that listing is for, an iPhone 10, an iPhone 11, iPhone 12, whatever. You sold that on the order, but now it comes into WholeCell, and in WholeCell you have your IMEIs, you have your entire inventory. So you're going to choose, your picking team is going to choose which iPhone 12 to ship out on that order. They're going to fulfill it and assign it. We call it committing it on the order. And that's going to kind of be your record now. You have a record of which IMEI was committed on that order. Then the order, if you're using ShipStation, can go over to ShipStation. You can print a shipping label for the order in ShipStation. And then that shipment tracking number for the label that you printed, it's going to come back to WholeCell, and WholeCell is going to send it up to WooCommerce as long as you have WooCommerce's shipment tracking. I think they've got a plugin for that. I think it's like a paid annual plugin, but that allows WooCommerce to email your customer with the shipment tracking that they ultimately got from your shipping label in ShipStation. So you can also manually add, if you're not using ShipStation, you could manually add a tracking number, whatever you're doing manually to go out and create that shipment. You can come into WholeCell, put that in manually, and that's going to sync back to WooCommerce. So that's kind of an overview of the WooCommerce integration. If you've seen our other integrations, it's very similar. We have this kind of two-sided integration to keep everything synced. We've got the listing sync and the quantity sync of the listings, and then we've got the order import and fulfillment and syncing the tracking number back when you ship the order. So that's the same across our other integrations. It's the same with our WooCommerce integration, but it allows you to have a full double-sided integration so that WholeCell knows what's going on in WooCommerce and communicates with WooCommerce, but also can take that information from WooCommerce, what orders you have, and kind of send the updated quantities, because you've got orders counting against your current inventory quantity. If you've got a new order that comes in from WooCommerce, you want to let eBay and Backmarket and Swappa and your other channels know as soon as possible, obviously. So that's the kind of the bulk of our WooCommerce integration. I'm just going to walk through the settings in the integration very briefly so you can see how it works. I've got my screen here. Hopefully you guys can see. So this is the WooCommerce settings page. If you go into your settings, if you've got a trial of WholeCell, or you're paying subscriber to WholeCell right now, you've got this in your settings page. You go to settings, which is right here in your sidebar. You scroll down and you see WooCommerce here. So you click on WooCommerce and you get to this WooCommerce integrations page. And this is where you kind of set things up. So you put in your website store URL right here, and you just want the bare URL. If you've got it at /store or something like that, you just want the URL of the site. You put in your consumer key and consumer secret, and there are directions here on how to generate those. I've got a WooCommerce site here that's our test site open, so I'll show you how to go in here and generate them, because it can be a little bit confusing. So when you want to generate that API key, you can go into your WooCommerce settings. Let's hop in here, and I think this is the main area, so we'll go to settings, and you get all these tabs here. Should be under advanced, and then another sublayer under that tab of REST API. So you can generate a key. I've generated some test keys here, and then you can come back to WholeCell and put in your keys. And then you have the ability to turn on all the different settings of the integration that I've been describing. So you can turn on the order import that automatically begins importing orders from WooCommerce. It's only going to import orders that happen after you turn it on. So it's not going to import any past ones. But that now you've got that set up, and if you have it enabled, all new orders that come in from your WooCommerce store are going to come into WholeCell. You can enable your listing import, so that's going to start importing all of your, in WooCommerce, they're called products, but here I can show you we've got a couple of demo products here. So look at all products. I've added some Google Pixel, Test Auto product import. This is our test account that we use to test all the features of the integration, but you can see I've added these products, and so when I pop over here to listings, those have been automatically imported into my listings in WholeCell. So those, and if they have a matching SKU, this SKU right here that's set on the product in WooCommerce, as you can see, they have the SKU set. If it matches a SKU that's already recognized in my catalog in WholeCell, it's going to auto map and just start automatically controlling the quantity of available stock on my WooCommerce site. So right from the get-go, if it recognizes the SKU, it automatically connects. If it didn't connect automatically, we could go into the listing and we could even set a different SKU in WholeCell that it's supposed to map to. We could set multiple SKUs, so we could put another secondary SKU down here, and it could map to that secondary SKU, and so then it would add those items from both SKUs and sync that quantity. We can see a sync history, and since this product's not connected, there's no sync history. We can see the stock levels for the product if it's connected. Let's pop over and see a product that is connected, this S6 Edge. So we get this really unique, this is what most people are coming to WholeCell looking for, is a clear perspective on how much inventory do I have right now of a particular SKU or product, and how is that tied to a listing. So this shows us we've got 9 in inventory, but we actually have orders that are counting towards that, against that 9. We've got 23 outstanding order items against this inventory count. So we don't have any available, so we're syncing 0 to the channel right now. Even though we have 9 available in inventory, we've got to go fulfill those orders with these 9. But we can see our sync history, we can see the quantity that was synced and when, a very clear timestamp, and then of course we've got those settings so we could attach another secondary SKU if we wanted to, or a third SKU, fourth SKU, etc. So we have a lot of control over how these listings connect in WholeCell. So those were our listings. I'm going to pop back to our details tab and go through the rest of the settings. As with all of our other integrations in WholeCell, you can connect your WooCommerce order statuses. So WooCommerce has its own concept of these various order statuses, and you want to map those obviously to WholeCell when an order imports. If you want it to have whatever order status it has in WooCommerce, you want to map that to the order statuses that you have saved in WholeCell in a way that makes sense. So this is about setting up your workflow. You have the ability to enable inventory quantity sync. So you may not want to do this until you are totally sure that your inventory in WholeCell is your known source of truth and it's the correct inventory quantities. And then when you enable it, it'll start updating your connected listings that are coming in from WooCommerce. With all of our other integrations, e-commerce integrations, you have the ability to scope based on your inventory statuses what statuses you want to be included in the available status that is listed. This available quantity that I was showing when we were looking at a listing a second ago. So we were looking at this listing. This 9 is calculated based on these settings here. So the fact that we have 9 available, you can scope that based on the inventory statuses that you're including here. So if I included other statuses, there might be these particular products of this SKU in these other statuses that would count towards that 9. So we have more added there. So you have the ability to do that and to set that up the way that you want. You have the ability to scope your inventory based on warehouse. Maybe you have your inventory separated between different warehouses for physical sake or for e-commerce sake. You can use them either way. And then you have this last ability to change the organization type. So you can say, you can have all of your orders come in under a customer named WooCommerce, or you can have them come in, Brennan Zellner, Sally Smith, etc., with the name of the customer that put, what name they have in WooCommerce, they can come into your WholeCell account with. So you have some kind of fine-tuned detail control over all these settings of your WooCommerce integration. And that's basically it, guys. That's what the WooCommerce integration does. We're really excited because this is the first direct integration that we've released from WholeCell, that from like us building it, that has all of these features and that allows you to connect to your own store, that you control, that doesn't have overselling penalties, obviously doesn't have a seller performance rating. You manage your own store. So you have the ability to connect a WooCommerce store right now. If you already have one, that's great. If you don't, they're pretty easy to set up and pretty cheap to maintain. So yeah, very, very thrilled to have that be a possibility now for all of our customers. So that's the WooCommerce integration. Again, if anybody that's on the webinar now has any questions, feel free to toss them in the chat. I'd be happy to answer questions about the WooCommerce integration. If I don't see any in the next few seconds, I'm just going to kind of keep going through some of the other features of WholeCell for folks that might be on the webinar that this is the first time encountering WholeCell, and so I'll talk a little bit more about what it can do. But again, if you've got any questions, toss them in the chat and I'll read them out and respond. So we were just talking about WooCommerce, which is one of our e-commerce integrations, but we have a handful of e-commerce integrations. What we found is that, it doesn't matter all the other features that WholeCell has for managing inventory if it doesn't connect to the channels that our customers want to use and that they're selling on. So we are continually adding more and more channels to our system here. And WooCommerce is the most recent addition, but you can see we have direct integrations with Swappa, eBay, Backmarket, WooCommerce, Sellbrite now, and ShipStation for importing orders. So ShipStation has the ability to connect to so many different channels. It's a much larger company than we are at WholeCell, and we connected a system to ShipStation that allows you in WholeCell to import any order that you can get into ShipStation can be imported into WholeCell through our ShipStation order import integration. So what this means is that, a channel right now that we don't have direct support for, like the ones in my coming soon section, Amazon, Walmart, Shopify, Wix, Wish, others, if you can get those orders into ShipStation, which I believe you can then have them come from ShipStation into WholeCell automatically. So that's an option and a way to set your order channels up with WholeCell, even if we don't have a direct integration with them yet. But I like to share that, a very general idea of what we're working on. And so everybody knows we are currently working on integrations with Amazon, Walmart, and Shopify. We know how important these are to folks that are selling used phones. And I definitely have some, unique ways that we've got customers that do sell on these channels and they've wanted to get them integrated. We have some unique workarounds. If you're curious about them, I'll probably do another webinar soon about at least one of them. But otherwise, feel free to reach out to us. Mike and I on the WholeCell team, we really, really like to get into the weeds and help customers set up their workflows the way that they need them to be set up. So we're happy to help you with that if you need. So those are our e-commerce integrations. I just went over everything that the WooCommerce integration does, and all of our e-commerce integrations behave pretty similarly. So you can expect that same level of control and synchronization detail from all of our e-commerce integrations. And that's those. In addition to our e-commerce integrations, we have a handful of business integrations because we know folks are running their business and they're connecting to multiple different types of software. Oh, we got a question from Dalian. Dalian says, hey there team, is WholeCell primarily specialized to phone sales? Yeah, so I mentioned that at the beginning. The way we started WholeCell was as a really directed, the ESN or IMEI is a field in WholeCell, and we have all of these product categories or product attributes that really map to phones specifically. We certainly have customers that are using WholeCell for their phones, tablets, wearable devices, laptop computers, and we know that folks want to use it for more. We hear many people saying they want to use it for game consoles. They want to use it for unserialized inventory like their accessories and their parts. And those are things that we have on the WholeCell roadmap, which you can go and find on our site. But today I'd say if you are selling phones, wearable devices like Apple Watches, Samsung Watches, tablets, then WholeCell's got what you need. If you are primarily a seller of different products, then you could make it work. We have customers who have made it work, but it's really built for folks that are buying and selling devices with an IMEI like phones. Hopefully that answers your question, and hopefully I'm saying your name right, Dalian. But feel free to follow up with more if you've got more. I'm happy to. Hopefully that answered your question, but I'm happy to dig in deeper. Back to the business integrations for a second, and I think speaking to your question, Diane, of what WholeCell does is we've got this integration with PhoneCheck, and it's a very popular one that a lot of our customers use. So they're testing their devices using PhoneCheck's diagnostic software to test and read the plug-in devices, kind of standardize their testing across all of the people that work for their business that are technicians testing devices. So those technicians are plugging phones into the PhoneCheck software and running the tests on the phones. And then you can import those results of that PhoneCheck tests into WholeCell as inventory. And that's a pretty powerful thing. So if you're able to connect phone check and then your e-commerce integrations, what you have is you have this constant flow of your phone check inventory information. So you don't have to kind of like figure out the model, the carrier, the gigabyte capacity, the IMEI. You don't have to key those items in manually, which is prone to error. You can bring that information directly from phone check, map the conditions that you have in phone check or the failed tests to your conditions in WholeCell, and then bring those devices in and automatically manage them on your e-commerce channels. So that's our phone check integration. We have an integration with QuickBooks that syncs your invoices and your purchase orders. It's very simple, but it syncs those over to QuickBooks so you don't have to double enter them. And then we also have a ShipStation integration that allows you to print these shipping labels for any order that you have in WholeCell. So if it's a wholesale order that comes in, you can export that over to ShipStation automatically and print the shipping label for it there. If you've got e-commerce orders that are coming in through WholeCell, those are going to go into ShipStation and you can print shipping labels for them. And then those shipping tracking numbers, get sent back to WholeCell, and WholeCell uploads them to the sales channels. So really, WholeCell is sitting in the center of your business, bringing in information from phone check, sending information to your e-commerce channels, sending information to QuickBooks and ShipStation, and then sending information back to these other platforms that you're selling on. So full central integration. Something we released in the last 6 months is an open API, and we've had customers asking us about this for years and years now. And so, customers, this kind of happens from a whole range of different customers who want various things, but some of them have custom workflow software that they've built, and they want to connect WholeCell to that custom workflow software. So they want to use WholeCell to be their inventory data store, but they also want to use their processing software, their warehouse software that they've built to manage it. So that's one of the options. Got another question from Dalian. He said, yes, that answered my question. I'm a developer for a gun distributor looking for an inventory management system. My last job did need this service. Maybe I can get you guys connected to them. They did utilize QuickBooks and Shopify. Yeah, that'd be great, Dalian. It's interesting. I don't think we've had anyone ask for, or specifically the use case of having a gun distribution business, but it makes a lot of sense that the serialized inventory tracking would be pretty critical in that industry. So I think you'd have to work around our product attributes being pretty specific to the phone industry and to cell phones themselves as products. But that you guys would be able to play with. And this is now I've gotten to the API, so you'd be able to. This is kind of perfect time pairing when I'm talking about this, because you could use the API to connect to whatever other custom software you're using. And I assume there are probably things in different industries like your clients that don't quite match to the way that our customers that are buying and selling cell phones are doing things. They're probably close, but again, custom warehouse tools, custom reporting, you'd need that for a different industry, I'm sure. And so you can use WholeCell's API now, which you really couldn't before. We didn't have an API to connect to third-party software, but we do now. So you can connect to these custom tools. We have a lot of folks that have kind of like enterprise trade-in or buyback software that they'll connect to just like we have the phone check integration that brings inventory over. You can do the same thing with that. And then we also have customers that want to connect to other e-commerce channels. So, Shopify is one of the ones that I think is taking us the longest to build. And it's just because Shopify has a very rigorous, which is good. I mean, they've got a rigorous marketplace review process, but to become a partner on their marketplace and to have an integration or a piece of software that connects to them, you have to go through a lot of steps of review. And so we've had customers that said, we just can't wait for this. We're going to build our own Shopify integration on top of your API because we can build a Shopify integration. It's just our integration. We're not building it to release for other customers. And they've done that. And so you can use our API, you can use our e-commerce endpoints, which are basically our stock levels. So you can connect and pull a report of all of your stock levels for different SKUs. And then you can create orders when orders are coming in. Those two sides of an e-commerce integration, you can build both out with our API. And you could do that with Shopify. You could do that with whatever other channel you're selling on. Maybe you have a custom, if you're not using Shopify or WooCommerce, you have your own custom store that you built from scratch. This is how you'd connect it to WholeCell. So you have the opportunity to do that with our API. I just like serialized order fulfillment. I think it's one of the things that we do better than other inventory apps out there. So I have it in this slide deck. This ability to specifically kind of scan your IMEIs that you're sending out, or your serial numbers that you're sending out on orders that come in. That's a huge value that many other platforms like Shopify don't have a great solution for. And Shopify, other e-commerce channels, they're not meant for tracking serialized items where you're selling a product, but the item that you're fulfilling is very unique, and you want to track its history and the fact that it went out on whichever order. And so at WholeCell, we've tried to make this process as quick as possible. We have a bulk commit page that allows you to scan an order and then scan the IMEIs that you're shipping out on that order, and it kind of can validate those IMEIs, show you in red or green whether or not that is what was ordered by the customer. So your picker and picking team can quickly scan and figure out, go through their day of fulfilling these orders, and in a true serialized manner, they can fulfill the orders with serialized items from your inventory. So that's our serialized order fulfillment in WholeCell. I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but you have the ability to track your repair costs. And Dahlia and I wonder if how this compares to other industries. But with phones in particular, you have so much going on after you buy the phone. Many of our customers have a repair department, an unlocking department, a grading department. Now new hardware is coming out that can kind of help you regrade. A C grade phone, you can maybe polish the screen and get it to a B grade. And so there's all of this work that's going in, and our customers want to track the cost and just the audit log, the fact that those things happened in the history. So in WholeCell, you can track those things on every specific IMEI that you add to the system, and you can add the costs of those things, which just adds a ton of value. So you have this ability to do these things, to categorize these expenses that you have. Those go into the total cost you've paid, and then you have true analytics, true managerial analytics to be able to figure out, what were my actual cost of goods, what was my actual gross profit and my gross margin on this item after I sold it and did all the repairs that I did in the workflow of my operation. So another benefit that most other inventory systems just don't have, because full-on ERP systems may have that, but it might just be so bulky that it's more cumbersome to use. But most inventory systems don't have as much control around those things and how they affect your gross financials. So repair cost tracking. We recently introduced a customer portal, which is kind of like your own B2B Shopify site or WooCommerce site, but hosted on WholeCell. And it's very simple. These other platforms that have built around setting up an e-commerce store, they're much more sophisticated and feature rich. But if you sign up for WholeCell and you have a subscription, this feature is entirely free. You can set up a B2B customer portal where your customers can see your active inventory, and they can place orders through the portals that you have to kind of validate. But this is a great way to kind of move some of that energy from your sales team's kind of WhatsApp hell, and move it into a workflow that is more structured and straightforward that you can manage. So when your customers ask you what you have in stock, you can send it to this page, and you can control what inventory is shown on this page. And when your customers want to place orders, they can do that through the system, and they can see their history of their previous orders, the IMEIs that they purchased, and any RMAs that they sent back that you approved. So they can see all these histories in their customer portal, a place where they can log in and see these things. So another feature. I haven't really chatted about pricing in our webinars before, but for new customers or prospective customers, I wanted to add this so that we're getting it out in the open. Our pricing ranges from $49 a month to $499 a month, and we have no onboarding fee, which I think if you're looking at other higher tier solutions like Channel Advisor, Seller Cloud, this pricing is incredibly reasonable. And one of the reasons we do it this way is because we're a smaller company with fewer costs in a smaller niche industry. And so, this is what we've seen our customers being able to afford. But it's also because WholeCell is more self-serve. We don't do a ton of onboarding. We don't have a large enough team to kind of visit our customers in person and set up this software for them. So we do the best with folks that have the ability to dig in, spend some time figuring out the system. And then Mike and I are around throughout the week to provide a ton ton of hands-on support. So, it's interesting. It's like, I'd say we do 80% of the onboarding that our competitors are charging thousands of dollars for, but we do it for free. So, and there's no hard feelings. If we've tried to set things up with generous trial time periods, and we're pretty liberal about them, so that if WholeCell is not the solution for you, we're not going to try and lock you into it. These are monthly plans that you can cancel at any time, and our goal is just to have customers that get value out of the software, and hopefully a lot more value than they're paying for it. That's what makes it worthwhile. So that's our pricing. Unlimited everything at $4.99 we think is a pretty stellar value especially if you're using any of our e-commerce integrations, because the more that we see other e-commerce multi-channel solutions are very expensive, especially as you scale up your order volume. So hopefully that's appealing to you if you're looking at WholeCell as a solution. And that's it. Thanks for sticking around with me for the whole 30 minutes today, guys. I really appreciate it. If you got any questions, I'll wait a couple seconds and look at the chat. But otherwise, great to be back. I enjoyed a little bit of time away, and now I'm excited to be doing these on a weekly basis again. So it's nice to kick it off with some familiar faces and some new faces too. All right, nothing coming up in the chat. Have a great rest of the Friday, everyone. Have a great weekend. I'll be back next week talking about probably other e-commerce bits and workarounds for different channel integrations. So I'll see you in the next one. Take care.